What's up? It's Daniel coming to you live from the Dronefly workshop. And today we have a special guest in the house. We have Grant Gosticka from DJI here to talk all about the new Zenmuse H20N. You don't want to miss this. So before we get too far ahead in all the technical terms and everything else, tell me what the H20N is all about.
Quite simply, nighttime operations. A lot of our users on the public safety space end up operating at night. The sensors that are built into the payload here are optimized for nighttime operation, can certainly still be used during the day as well. I think we'll get into them shortly here.
All right, well, walk me through all of the tech that's in this thing, because it's so funny. This thing looks so simple, but I know it does so many things, so tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So pull it back here. We actually have 5 sensors here on the one payload, so a new record on the DJI side, maybe 6 next time. But up top here, we have a thermal camera and same in the bottom right. The difference here though is in the top left, you're getting a bit of a wider view. So on your controller, when you're at 2x zoom, that's gonna be here for the wider thermal camera. In the bottom right here, we have our tele-thermal camera. So as you're zooming in from 2x to 8x, you'll actually notice it gets a little bit worse at 4x because it's going digital zoom up here, but then it'll switch over to the second thermal camera, and at 8x, it's really magical that you're zoomed in that far and you still have that 640 by 512 resolution that they both bring. We have a Starlight zoom sensor and a Starlight wide sensor optimized for nighttime operations, and then the laser rangefinder here in the top right with about a 1/4 mile range. You can use for a variety of tasks, including getting a location, marking pins, and helping the camera focus.
Okay, so the N in H20N stands for night vision. How strong are these sensors? How good are they in low light?
As mentioned, they're Starlight night sensors. So this is technology that's built to really optimize performance in low light scenarios. So your human eye, you're kind of limited when you get to about 20 lux out. You're really going to struggle to see other objects, color, etc. On the camera side, with a half moon, which would be 0.12 lux, you can see about 500 meters away, detecting people. So we're talking about search and rescue type scenarios. It can be very useful. And the technology behind those Starlight sensors is actually a few things. One being the pixel size. It's a much larger pixel. So when you look at the specs here, you'll see that the zoom camera is 4 megapixels, the wide camera is 2 megapixels, and at first that might be a little off-putting, but when you really get into it a bit more, that actually enables better operations at night. So zoom camera, you can still go up to 128 times max zoom, and then the wide camera as well still is able to give you that wider view Starlight sensor as well. You know, when you're looking at a typical camera, it's all about how much light we're getting into the sensor. So on top of the DJI software that helps these sensors out, you also have a bit longer shutter speed, letting light in as well. So really doing everything it can on the payload side to help out for night operations.
Okay, so briefly tell me about the H20 series of payloads and their differences.
So on the DJI side, we have 3 different options here, you could say. The previous H20 series that had been released, we had the H20, which does not include any thermal cameras. So zoom, wide, and a laser rangefinder. The H20T adds the thermal camera. On this previous H20 series, you're looking at a 20 megapixel zoom camera, which is really optimized on the inspection side, where you're going to be able to take higher resolution photos and also have a more precise thermal camera. So it's really optimized for both inspections and daylight operations. The H20N here, still a good option during the day as well, but it really shines at night when you're using these different sensors and the multiple thermal cameras for a variety of operations.
In your opinion, what's the coolest thing about this?
It comes down to the 2 thermal sensors for me. It was actually doing some real operations the other day, helping out some folks, and it's really a big difference when you zoom in. Going from an H20T starts to get a little grainier when you go to digital zoom. It's just a reality of a sensor. But with this here, jumping over to that second thermal sensor and really having that 640 by 512 clarity really helps. So when you're flying in a search and rescue type mission, you're looking for something and it takes time and you need to send the ground team in to check it out. Being able to simply zoom in with a second thermal camera on the drone saves you time and saves the ground team, because you can get a better idea of what you're actually looking at and if it's something the ground team should really investigate. You could say, well, you should fly lower too, but once again, that's taking A, time, or B, with maybe trees, obstructions, you're not going to have the ability to do so. So really a big time saver in regards to nighttime operations, and helps folks get a more successful outcome.
Okay, so who is this payload built for?
Public safety is really the industry that sticks out to me. You're not looking for necessarily a precise temperature measurement with the thermal cameras, and you're often operating at night. So fire, search and rescue, law enforcement, this payload can be very useful for a variety of operations there.
Okay, so are there any downsides to the H20N versus the H20T?
The performance is going to be a little worse during the day in regards to zoom 128 times versus 200. So there's a very small amount you're giving up there for the benefits at night. But if you're doing a critical infrastructure inspection, obviously having the 20 megapixel camera of the H20T series can be a benefit compared to the Starlight sensor here that isn't necessarily optimized for daylight inspections.
Does this have the typical features of a DJI thermal camera?
So you're going to have the typical software tools like your temperature area box, spot temperature measurements. You can adjust the isotherms, color palettes, all that good stuff. So basically you have your baseline features in regards to thermal cameras on the software side.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about the new Zenmuse H20N?
Yeah, I think maybe some of the software features on the Payload, very similar to the preceding H20 series, where you can drop pins with the laser rangefinder, you can do smart track of people's, car, or custom objects. But a new software feature as well specific to the H20N is simultaneous zoom. So you can pair the visual and thermal cameras together. So as you're zooming in with one, the other camera zooms in simultaneously. You have your screen split in half there. So pretty useful to zoom both cameras at the same time and not have to worry about clicking one or the other. You still have the option to use them differently, but the pair option is a nice software addition.
Well, that's all we have on today's episode. I want to give a big thanks to Grant from DJI for telling us all about the Zenmuse H20N. Well, if you have any questions about this payload, give us a call, email us, or visit our website at dronefly.com. My name's Daniel, and I'll see you next time.